I decided I wanted to lose some brain cells, so I went to the cesspool that is YieldMax Reddit. This is a subreddit dedicated to knowledge and learning and echo chambers and misinformation. I stumbled across a post asking, why not just put your full $10,000 in savings into MSTY and get $1,000 in dividends every single month? Apparently this person had done some research, which probably consisted of watching Kemmer videos and reading more YieldMax Reddit posts. And then they came to the conclusion that $10,000 is better invested in MSTY rather than just leaving it in savings. This post got nearly 100 upvotes, which means a lot of people have this way of thinking, and the top reply said they were unsure why this would be a bad idea. I want to emphasize, I'm not trying to bash the person asking. Clearly, anybody who's asking a question to an online forum like this is a beginner if you couldn't just tell by the post. And it even says so in the post that they're a beginner. Clearly, this person is trying to learn, so I will commend them on that. It's more so this community of high yield dividend warriors that I'm trying to get my points across to, because it seems like every one person you try to help out, there's like 100 brand new people just spawning left and right, convinced that they will get rich off high yields. But after reading this post, guys, I got this crazy idea. That $220,000 portfolio that I have, that I spent every single day of my working life grinding for, my life's work, poured into the best companies and ETFs after hours of nonstop research, I figured, why don't I just put it all into MSTY? After all, I get 127% yield every year according to YieldMax's website. I get $279,000 in dividends this year alone if I just put it all into MSTY. No more having to go to work. I found the secret cheat code in life. $279,000. That would be more than $23,000 a month every single month. Now, I can do a lot with $23,000 a month. Like, I can buy meme coins, I can eat sushi, I can have custom-made jewelry, maybe even a night with some FS1 hosts. I heard they're down for whatever if the price is right. But before I sell off everything, let's just take one last look to see if this is a good idea to sell out of all of my investments and just put it all into MSTY. After all, it's everything that I've worked my entire life for that's at stake. Let's keep in mind the greatest investor of all time's top 2 rules for investing during this exercise, which is rule number 1, don't lose money, and rule number 2, don't forget rule number 1. Simple enough, right? Let's keep those in mind. The first risk that we would probably run into is that MSTR or MicroStrategy is barely a business. They don't really sell goods or services these days, but instead, they just hoard as many Bitcoins as it can on their balance sheet. It issues new shares to keep buying more Bitcoin. This makes the stock price highly correlated with Bitcoin's price movements, something MicroStrategy has no control over. This is very different than a company like Apple that can directly impact what's going on in its business and how they can be successful. The OP also specially mentioned he wanted to put his savings into MSTY. This is money that people typically have on the side to help pay for any emergencies. Can you imagine putting your money into this fund? Bitcoin then decides to randomly go down, which it often does for no rhyme or reason. Take, for example, the day that I'm recording this, MSTY is down a whole 8%. Keep in mind, this is a day when the overall stock market is only down just 1%. So MSTY is down 8 times what the overall market is trading for. Suddenly, you have a medical bill. Your car stops working. Your kid is sick. Well, that's too bad. Your emergency fund is now only a fraction of what you initially put in. Emergency funds should be liquid. That means it's very quick to convert them into cash in case of emergency. Introducing your emergency fund to the stock market, not just MSTY, that would cause there to be a lot of risk and volatility, which essentially defeats the purpose of an emergency fund. But what about MSTY's juicy dividends? Remember, they're giving around 127% yield. That sounds pretty good, right? While that might sound extremely attractive, let's talk about if it's actually sustainable. Seeing how the average S&P 500 return over the last 100 years is only around 7 to 10%. To be getting over 10x that means that MSTY is taking on some extreme risk. MSTY is able to generate such high yields because MSTR and Bitcoin are super volatile right now. By doing these covered calls, MSTY is also limiting upside potential, meaning if MicroStrategy or really Bitcoin does really well, MSTY is only going to get a portion of that return. So if you're really bullish on Bitcoin, I'm still very confused why you wouldn't just buy Bitcoin. But where this strategy really lacks is that MSTY has exposure to all the downside. You can see after big swings up and down, the dreaded word that we all hate to say, NAV erosion, comes into play. Now, so far, MSTY hasn't really had that. It's done pretty well. Just keep in mind that you'll see in a bull market, everybody starts to look like a genius. Think of it as a boat in a rising tide. Even mediocre stock picks tend to do well in a bull market like we've been having. It gives the illusion of success. This can also lead to confirmation biases, which is very apparent in the cult that is MicroStrategy and Bitcoin. This community, people will start to believe that their investment decisions are brilliant simply because they are getting positive results. They'll start to believe, if they believe hard enough, that their investments will do good, even though belief has no impact on the price of a stock. In fact, this steadfast, strong belief in market results then leads to euphoria. When investors only think their investments will go up, they will think beating the market is super easy. They will think getting 127% return every year is actually realistic. Their Discord servers, their Reddit chains, they become circle jerks. Everybody's a winner. They start buying Cybertrucks. They start making plans for running for president. National reserves get changed into YieldMax funds. This becomes a you versus them type of scenario. Anybody who has any sort of criticism or asks questions about the funds going up is met with harsh opposition. They're met with bans. They're silenced. It's very, very scary. The euphoria conceals all the risk, and then the bull market stops. It pops. Gains that took years to happen are evaporated in the blink of an eye. The tide that we talked about earlier, it's now gone. Some boats, like those built with solid, well-researched investments and diversification, they're able to weather the storm. They maintained their integrity and stability despite the changing conditions. These investors may experience dips, but the foundations are held up. They'll likely rebound when the market picks up again. However, many other boats which were floating along due to speculation, such as a MSTY, are overexposed to risky assets or short-term trends. That sounds awfully similar to Bitcoin. They start to sink when the tide recedes. Without the support of a rising market, these boats reveal cracks. They're poorly diversified portfolios, they're unhedged risk, or they're speculative bets that can no longer hold up in a bear market. Now, MSTY has done very well so far, and it has returned some juicy dividends. I will give the high-yield dividend warriors credit for that. But just know that dividends are never guaranteed. The greed that they had from all their returns in 2024, they're going to try and push their luck, but there's nothing that says that you are owed dividends. The company can stop paying dividends, and that would be 100% legal. They can stop paying dividends whenever they want. There could also be a day when Bitcoin's volatility isn't as high as it is right now, and that will also dry up the premiums and dividends. You know, upon hearing that everything that MicroStrategy seems to be doing reminds me of a pyramid scheme, upon learning that dividends are never guaranteed, realizing that Bitcoin is widely speculative and subject to huge risk and volatility that normal stocks don't go through. I'm thinking that I might decide to just leave my hard-earned money into well-researched stocks and ETFs that actually sell tangible goods and services that I can measure every quarter. I think that's going to be a better result for me. Phew, that was a really close one. Of course, there's certainly a chance I'm wrong. After all, MSTY or MSTR, they had a really great 2024. The only year they have ever been around since they are a brand new fund, not time and tested. It's possible the euphoria lasts in 2025, and they have another fantastic year. After all, there's nothing wrong with having a speculative position or reserving part of a portfolio for higher risk investments. We might still be in a bull market today, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we will be in a bull market tomorrow. What do you think about MSTY for 2025? I can't wait to keep annoying the high yield dividend warriors in 2025. Make sure you join the Patreon to help make these videos possible and annoy the warriors. You'll also get access to my full $220,000 plus portfolio that's not all in MSTY, and my weekly stock trades that beat the market last year. My videos are also found in podcast form under the Collect Cash podcast name, and I'll catch you on the next one.
I don't care about the negative rate. Who give a damn? You get $18,000 per month to buy whatever you want to buy. Take the money and run. It's like robbing a bank. Take the money and go do something.